Oh man, so it's an exchange. Sometimes we think about it as perhaps an exchange of energy, but that sometimes gets a little bit confusing. But the idea is that we are receiving continually. And many times we're not aware of it. We're not aware that this is continually, that this good is continually coming to us. And our minds get caught up in feelings and thoughts of lack, of not having enough. The world presents us with situations that seem to point to there not being a great enough supply to take care of our needs. That even that which we have may seem to be threatened. Fear enters in. The evidence of the world really is compelling if this is all that we focus on. I mean, as we look around, and as we've said many times, there's many places where we can observe this lack in action. But as Marianne Williamson said, this has everything to do with our consciousness and not God's consciousness. So this world of lack that we see is actually not the world that God has made. It is the world that we have made. That can cause sometimes the hackles to raise on the back of the neck, get upset, say, well, I never had anything to do with these dire situations. It's past me. And what ends up happening, of course, is we look to blame. Not only do we look to blame, but we look for rescue. We look to blame and we say, well, it's this force, this government, this group of people that are causing these particular... And we've got a group of people in our minds that we can blame for each separate situation that we observe. There's somebody, don't worry. If we look, there's somebody we can blame. And the fact of the matter is that what's going on is that we're all at some level of consciousness, subconscious or perhaps even in the conscious mind that we observe, that we are all complicit in creating this world that we see. And so one of the things that happens is when we observe injustice and all of the various forms of lack that show up, is we get upset and we want to go on a mission. We think, look at it, it causes guilt. It causes guilt in a number of different ways. One of the things that it causes guilt around is the fact that we observe the world. We can see there are many who have who seem to be struggling with less than we have, and then of course we project that guilt out there, looking at those who we perceive that have more than we do, and it's very easy to say, well, these ones that we observe that have more, they should take care of these ones that we observe that have less. And but the other thing that we can do is we can say, okay, what I need to do now is I need to do my part and fight for the underdog, get out there and do the thing that. And this is really I just want to say that we can't win that fight, because there'll just be another one later. I mean, we can seem to overcome some circumstances, but there will be other circumstances. But we actually can heal the whole problem. We can heal the whole problem. And I want to say, I want to say something that I just believe totally in my being, that we have the ability to change the world, but not by individual efforts actually fighting against something else, fighting against what we perceive to be the evil thing. And again, in every situation, we can find an evil thing. But how we change it, how we change the world, is by changing our own consciousness. And this is this lesson for today really is based on the idea of, well, I sent out the text this morning, and it just said support. And that there are a lot of subtexts around that term this morning going on in my mind. The first is to recognize that we are being supported. That God, good if you will, stands under all. That there's a foundation in existence of good. And on that foundation, everything else is built. The world that we see is not built on that foundation. The world that we perceive is not built on that foundation. The world that we perceive is built on the foundation of lack and not enough support. It's built on the foundation of that there's danger in the world and that we're under threat. And it comes directly from the thought that we're alone. I know I repeat this every week. But this is our starting point. This is our starting point. The thought that we are alone is the cause of all of this, up to and including all of the murder and mayhem that we observe, hopefully just on TV. So we have a role to play. We each have a role to play. And what the Course in Miracles says, and not just the Course in Miracles, but really all spiritual pursuits have this one thing in common. That there's like a job, a mission for us to complete. And what the Course in Miracles tells us is that mission is just like really, it's just this real simple idea, can be difficult sometimes, but the idea is that our job is to be truly helpful. That this is our purpose. This is what we're here for, is to be truly helpful. And so, hey, listen, and it's really hard for people to disagree with that. Especially in polite society. It's difficult. Everybody would have to kind of go along with it. And then, of course, guilt is caused because you ask yourself, well, am I really being helpful? And you can find all kinds of ways where you're not being helpful. But then the contrast comes into play where you can also observe that there are many others who aren't being helpful. It's not helpful. So, okay. So there's an exchange going on. There's an exchange going on all the time. That we are receiving love all the time. And we are actually giving love all the time. But that doesn't seem to be our experience. Because what it seems to be our experience is that we are receiving all sorts of bad news in all kinds of different forms. We're receiving danger signals, and then that's what we're exchanging. And if you just examine our conversations, I was just thinking about it this morning as I was considering this talk. I was just thinking about my own conversations and how I find it appropriate somehow to have conversations about the negative things that are going on. And see, okay, so there's a difference. We report the news, right? I want to report the news. And so, but why is it attractive to see some calamity that has occurred and then get on the phone and call somebody and talk about it? Or this is our participation in these things. Now, I'm not going to say that we should ignore these things that are happening. We shouldn't ignore them. We should do like in the meditation. We notice it. We notice this thing that seems very, very upsetting. We notice it and we acknowledge it. We can even bless it as we allow it to move out of our consciousness. And there are certain ways that we can actually heal our feelings concerning the situation that occurred. So I'm actually not suggesting that we ignore all of the seeming evil in the world. What I'm suggesting is that it's a distraction that keeps us from changing it. Because we're all caught up in it. We're all caught up in the drama of it all. And what this lesson for today was saying is that that in your mind, in our mind, there is a storehouse of miracles. And the language in the lesson describes each one of these miracles as a lily of forgiveness. And of course, this is all symbols. This is all very symbolic. And the painting out here that you'll see when you leave, it's a painting of it's got 4 lilies on it. And you've seen it every time you walk out the door. But it was painted by a student of the course, and it was very striking when I first saw it, and I had to have it. But it was only striking to me. Somebody else could look at it and say, "Well, it's kind of nice." But only striking to me because the symbols mean something to me. So we have this storehouse, which the storehouse, by the way, is described as a treasure house. And so it's attached to the idea of abundance. It's attached to the idea of true prosperity. Abundance meaning more than enough of all good things. So now the Course is concerned mostly, and our spiritual path is concerned mostly with the idea that there is a greater, higher realm than the physical world. But it does not deny the physical world. It does not say that we should divorce ourselves from the physical world. So abundance and prosperity, if they are held in mind, should also reflect into the world that we see. But it shouldn't be, for our practice, they shouldn't be the reason why we do the practice. To have stuff show up in the physical world shouldn't be our motivation, but it should be a benefit. It should be, and not just stuff. I mean, there's many things we think we need. We think we need certain people in our lives. We think we need. I mean, we want to have full relationships. We want to have rewarding work that we do. All of these things should show up as a benefit that comes from the spiritual practice, but not as the goal of the spiritual practice, because the goal has to be truly helpful. Otherwise, and we can, you know what? We have the ability to make whatever it is that we want to make. So we can put our attention on things and make stuff come true in the world that we see. The problem is when that's our focus, they will never be truly satisfying. There will always be an emptiness involved. And there will always be that next thing that I've got to get. So this treasure house that's in our mind has a lily of forgiveness for every needed miracle. Now, the whole thing, sometimes it's misunderstood when the Course is talking about miracles. Every miracle is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Some type of forgiveness there is no miracle that is not forgiveness. The whole idea of the Course is to teach us how to exchange forgiveness, to exchange love for fear. How do we go from a position of feeling like we don't have what we need to a position of knowing that we have everything? Just think about the shift in consciousness that has to occur. It's to go from a state of mind where we are worried about any number, and the details are myriad. I mean, there's just, and again, if we think about what's going on, it's all of these things, all of these little fragments of fear are the things that keep us distracted from the truth that we're all one, and that life is one, and that life is abundant, and that there is more than enough of all good things for all of us. So to go from this state of mind of fear that I don't have enough, I don't know what's going to happen, and all of the projections that come out of that what I tell this story a lot, and I had a woman that worked for me once, really great salesperson, and she was very successful, and we had structured our commission in such a way that the salespeople could actually make more money than I was the vice president of the company, and we had a president and another vice president, and we all made the same amount of money. But we had it structured so the salespeople could actually make more than us if they produced a certain amount, because we thought that was a good model and would be helpful to the business. Well, she made more than us like every year. Yeah. But she came to me and she was always like nervous. And she said she had a vision of herself being a bag lady. Well, so the evidence of abundance was there, but in her mind she was still plagued by fear. She was plagued by fear. And what is her fear? Her fear, yes, today this is here. But I have this fear that something is going to happen in the future and it's going to be gone. But then on the flip side, when we're struggling in our jobs, when maybe we are underpaid, money is not coming to us, things keep constricting on us, then our fear is, now I'm in this situation where I'm like, I don't have enough. What's going to happen? What's going to happen next? There's not enough. If any one little thing goes wrong, it already has gone wrong. I have to go borrow money. I have to go help. These circumstances. So really, and even those people that we see that look as if they have everything, I guarantee you that they have fears of losing. Not necessarily losing their fortunes, but they have fears of losing. And so here, this picture is painted that in our mind there's a place that can forgive every one of these fears. That there is a treasure house of these lilies of forgiveness, one that is appropriate to each fear, to each situation where we feel threatened. And that all we have to do is ask that it be revealed to us. We have to have the willingness then to release the fear and accept the love that particular, you could call it a treasure, would bestow upon us. And this is where the ego does not want to allow any of this to happen. Because here's the fact of the matter is, all of these miracles are available to us right now. And it's fun, but each and every one of us has our own list of, they're similar, by the way, they're similar, but we each have our own list of things. And we haven't probably even taken the time to consciously write down these things. They just keep running around in circles in our minds. It could be helpful, actually, to sit down, just take a day, one day, and every fear thought that comes into mind, just make a little note so you can remember what it was. Just write it down. And then at the end of the day, sit and look at that list. First of all, you're going to see there's a lot of silly stuff on that list. That's the first thing that's going to happen. But then for those things that really seem like this is really concrete, this is really something I might need to be concerned about, just get quiet and ask Spirit. Whatever that means to you. When I say ask Spirit, whatever that means to you. If that means ask Jesus, ask Jesus. If that means ask God, ask God. If it means, whatever it means to you. Ask that the particular miracle that needs to be applied to this fear be provided. And then just see what happens. Come back here next week and report. It'll be part of the good news. Just see what happens. Now, ultimately, the real answer is for us to give love in all situations. But we are continually interfered with by the ego saying, no, you can't risk that. You can't risk that energy in that area because, and then there's all sorts of reasons why not. You can't give that. They don't deserve that consideration. No, that would be too dangerous to take that risk there because these other things might happen. The ego is continually interfering with our natural tendency to forgive. Because really, that's what we're about, is the extension of love. That's really who we are. And the ego has just placed this blanket over the top of it that keeps us in the dark. Christ's vision is the holy ground in which the lilies of forgiveness set their roots. So it says in here that these lilies can't actually grow in the world that we see because there's not enough sustenance for them. So where they do grow, it says, is in Christ's vision.